The laughter came first. A sharp, careless laugh from a young man standing far too relaxed in a courtroom. He leaned back, smirked, and said the words no judge ever forgets. "My dad's the sheriff. Laws do not apply to me." The cameras caught Judge Judy's face go still. No anger, no surprise. Just calculation. Because what happened next turned that confidence into something much darker. The gavel had not even settled when the chair scraped back. The young man leaned into it like he owned the space, one arm draped casually over the backrest. His posture did not match the room. Courtrooms demanded stillness. He brought comfort. He scanned the cameras, smiled once, and exhaled like this was a show he had already seen. Across from him, the plaintiff stood stiff, papers clutched too tightly. Her eyes stayed forward. She did not look at him. She did not have to. His presence filled the air anyway. Judge Judy watched without moving. The defendant shifted, crossed his legs, and whispered something under his breath. It earned a small laugh from himself. Not loud, not disruptive. Just enough to announce confidence. The kind that did not ask permission. The bailiff glanced up. The gallery noticed. Judge Judy did not. The case began the way many did. Names, claims, dates. But the rhythm broke almost immediately. The defendant interrupted before the first explanation could finish, waving a hand as if clearing smoke. "Can we speed this up?" he said, smiling. "This is not that serious." The plaintiff's jaw tightened. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her fingers pressed harder into the edge of her folder. Judge Judy lifted her eyes, not sharply, not with warning. Just enough to acknowledge sound existed. The defendant noticed and smiled wider. He spoke again without being invited, explained his version before anyone asked, laughed once more when the plaintiff tried to correct him. Each interruption landed like a test. Each one went unanswered. That only fed him. He leaned forward now, elbows on knees, voice casual. He explained how things worked, how misunderstandings happened, how people overreacted. He spoke like someone used to being believed simply because he spoke. The plaintiff finally told her story, quietly, carefully. Her voice shook once, then steadied. She described what happened, what it cost her, and what she was asking for. She did not look at him when she finished. He snorted. Not loud enough to be called disrespect, just enough to be heard. Judge Judy wrote something down. The defendant mistook that for approval. He leaned back again, arms crossed, confidence settled into his shoulders. He looked relaxed, comfortable, untouchable. The kind of man who had never sat in silence long enough to hear consequences forming. The courtroom felt uneven, one side heavy with restraint, the other floating on ease. Judge Judy finally spoke, not to correct him, not to warn him. She asked his name again, asked him to repeat it slowly, asked where he was standing that night, asked one small question that did not sound dangerous at all. He answered easily, too easily. And as he spoke, Judge Judy stopped writing. She looked at him fully now. The smile stayed on his face. But something in the room shifted. Because for the first time, the confidence was no longer growing. It was waiting. The question did not come with heat. It arrived calmly, almost casually, as Judge Judy leaned back in her chair and studied him like a line of fine print people usually skip. "Do you always talk like this?" she asked. The defendant blinked once. The smile hesitated, then returned stronger, polished by instinct. "Talk like what?" he said, chuckling. "Relaxed?" A few people in the gallery shifted. Someone cleared their throat. The plaintiff's eyes flicked up for half a second, then dropped again. Judge Judy did not react. "Relaxed is not the word," she said. "Dismissive is closer." He laughed again, louder this time. It carried confidence, the kind built from repetition, from rooms where no one pushed back. "I am just being honest," he replied. "This whole thing is blown out of proportion. Everyone knows how this goes." Judge Judy tilted her head slightly. "Everyone?" she asked. He shrugged. "People like her," he said, gesturing loosely toward the plaintiff without looking at her. They hear something they do not like, and suddenly it is a crisis. The plaintiff inhaled sharply. Her hand trembled once against the folder. Judge Judy raised a finger. Not to silence him, to slow him. You are not here to explain people, she said. You are here to explain yourself. He leaned forward, eager now. That is exactly what I am doing. I am explaining that this is nothing. His tone stayed smooth, practiced, like he had said these words before and watched them work. Judge Judy watched him watch himself. Who taught you that this is nothing? She asked. The question landed differently. His smile thinned, just slightly. No one taught me anything, he said. I just know how things work. And how is that? She asked. He hesitated, then straightened his shoulders. My dad's a sheriff, he said. Not loud, not proud, matter of fact, like stating the weather. I have been around this stuff my whole life. I know what matters and what does not. The room reacted before Judge Judy did. A ripple of movement, a whisper. The plaintiff's head lifted fully now, disbelief clear in her eyes. Judge Judy wrote something down. The defendant mistook that for interest. So yeah, he continued, warming to it. I talk like this because I can, because I know when something is serious and when it is just noise. Judge Judy set her pen down. That is fascinating, she said. He smiled again, encouraged. Tell me, she continued, when you say you can talk like this, is that because you are right? Or because you are protected? The smile faltered. Those are the same thing, he said quickly. Judge Judy did not respond right away. She let the silence stretch, let it sit between them like a question waiting for honesty. The defendant shifted in his chair, crossed and uncrossed his legs. His foot tapped once before he noticed and stopped it. You are very comfortable in this room, Judge Judy said. More comfortable than most people ever are. He smirked. Should I not be? She met his eyes. That depends, she said evenly, on whether comfort comes from truth or immunity. The word lingered. Immunity. For the first time, his smile did not return right away, and the room leaned in, sensing that the conversation had quietly changed direction. The word immunity hovered longer than it should have. The defendant leaned back again, forcing ease into his shoulders like armor. He stretched his neck once, rolled it, and smiled as if the tension in the room was imaginary. You are making this dramatic, he said. This is not a big deal. Judge Judy did not argue. She let him keep talking. That mistake was his. When you grow up around law enforcement, he continued, you understand how things really work. People get emotional, complaints get filed, then cooler heads fix it. Fix it how? Judge Judy asked. He shrugged. By recognizing when something is a waste of time. The plaintiff stared at him now, not angry, stunned, like she was hearing her own experience erased out loud. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. You say you understand how things work, she said. So let us be specific. You believe your last name changes how rules apply to you. He laughed. I did not say that. You did not have to, she replied. You implied it. He shook his head, still smiling. You are twisting my words. No, Judge Judy said calmly. I am clarifying them. The smile tightened. My father has worked his entire life to protect people, the defendant said. He knows when something is real and when someone is just trying to cause trouble. And this, Judge Judy asked, is trouble. He glanced briefly at the plaintiff, just long enough to dismiss her. Yes, he said, this is someone upset they did not get their way. The plaintiff's hands shook. She pressed them flat on the table, grounding herself. Judge Judy watched her, then looked back at him. You are very comfortable speaking for your father, she said. Does he know you do that? The question caught him off guard. Of course, he said quickly. He trusts my judgment. Judge Judy nodded once. Interesting, she said, Because trust and accountability usually arrive together. He frowned, just for a moment. You keep acting like this is unusual, he said. Where I am from, people understand respect. Respect, Judge Judy repeated, or fear. He scoffed. Same thing. The words landed wrong. The gallery reacted again. A low murmur. Someone shifted uncomfortably. The bailiff straightened. Judge Judy's pen moved. Tell me, she said, how many times have you used your father's position to end a conversation? He hesitated. None, he said too quickly. Judge Judy looked at him over the top of her glasses. Not once? She asked. He exhaled, annoyed now. I do not keep count, because it does not matter. Everything matters in this room, she said, especially patterns. He leaned forward, frustration creeping into his voice. You are acting like my name is a crime. No, Judge Judy said. I am acting like your name is a shield, and I am trying to determine how often you hide behind it. The silence that followed was heavier than before. The defendant opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. He looked toward the cameras, then back at Judge Judy. I am here because this is being blown up, he said. Not because I did anything wrong. Judge Judy picked up a folder from her desk. A simple motion, unremarkable. But the defendant's eyes tracked it instantly, because for the first time, the shield he trusted did not feel solid. It felt thin. And Judge Judy had not even touched it yet. Judge Judy opened the folder. Not dramatically, not with flair, just enough to expose a thin stack of papers clipped neatly together. The sound was soft, but it landed hard. The defendant relaxed when he saw it. Paper did not scare him. Paper could be explained. This will clear it up, he said confidently, leaning back again. Whatever version you were given is incomplete. Judge Judy did not look at him. She read. Seconds passed. The room waited. She turned a page. The plaintiff's breathing grew shallow. The defendant watched Judge Judy's eyes instead of the documents, tracking for reaction like a gambler reading cards. She stopped on one page. You said you were standing by your vehicle the entire time, she said. Yes, he replied instantly. Like I already explained. You were not inside the building at any point? She asked. No, he said, irritated now. Absolutely not. Judge Judy lifted her eyes. This report places you inside the building for 7 minutes, she said calmly. He laughed. It came fast and loud, too loud. That is wrong, he said. That is a mistake. Is it? She asked. Yes, he snapped. Who wrote that? Judge Judy turned the folder slightly, angling the top page toward him without pushing it across. The name at the bottom was clear. The laugh died halfway through his breath. That does not mean anything, he said quickly. Reports get messed up all the time. Judge Judy tapped the page once. This is a departmental incident report, she said, filed the same night. He swallowed. So, he said, that still does not mean it is accurate. Judge Judy nodded slowly. True, she said. That is why I checked the supplemental. She flipped another page. And the timestamp, she continued. And the body camera log. His foot started tapping again. He did not notice. You want to know why this matters? Judge Judy asked. He shrugged, but his shoulders were no longer relaxed. Because when people lie casually, she said, they usually forget details. And when they forget details, records expose them. He leaned forward now, palms pressed flat against the table. You are assuming I am lying, he said sharply. I am not assuming, Judge Judy replied. I am comparing. She paused. This report, she continued, was written by an officer on duty. That officer was not the plaintiff. It was not you. She looked up. It was your father's department. The room reacted as one. A sharp intake of breath. A whisper that moved like a wave. The plaintiff's eyes widened, then filled. The defendant stared at the page. No, he said quietly. No, that does not mean... It means, Judge Judy interrupted, that your own department documented behavior you just denied. His face flushed. He would not do that, he said. He would not write something that hurts me. Judge Judy's voice stayed level. Are you sure this hurt you? She asked. Or did it simply record you? Silence pressed down. The defendant opened his mouth, then closed it again. His confidence did not shatter. It slipped, just a hairline fracture. But Judge Judy saw it. She closed the folder gently. Your last name did not protect you here, she said. It documented you. He stared at the desk, jaw tight, because for the first time, the shield he trusted had not stepped in front of him. It had stepped aside, and the crack was visible to everyone. The silence after the folder closed felt heavier than the evidence itself. The defendant shifted in his chair, rolling his shoulders like he was trying to shake something off. His confidence had not vanished, but it no longer filled the room. It hovered close to him now, smaller, tighter, defensive. That does not mean anything, he said again, slower this time. My dad did not write that report. Someone else did. Judge Judy nodded slightly. Correct. Relief flashed across his face. And yet, she continued, it came from his department, which means it passed through his system. The relief faded. He cannot control everything his officers write, the defendant said quickly. You know that. I do, Judge Judy replied. But I also know what does not get written. He frowned. What is that supposed to mean? She leaned forward just enough to make him pay attention. Departments are very good at omitting things, she said. If they want to. The defendant swallowed. So if this report exists, she continued, it is not because someone wanted to hurt you. It is because someone chose not to protect you. The words landed cleanly. No accusation. Just truth. That is ridiculous, he snapped. My father would never throw me under the bus. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. Is documenting an incident throwing someone under the bus? Or is it doing a job? He opened his mouth, then hesitated. I know how this works, he said, frustration rising. He fixes things quietly. That is what good officers do. No, Judge Judy said firmly. That is what bad systems do. The plaintiff's shoulders loosened slightly. For the first time, she looked like she was being heard. Judge Judy turned back to the defendant. Protection, she said, is not pretending something did not happen. Protection is stopping it from happening again. He shook his head. You are making this personal. I am making it accurate, she replied. He leaned forward, voice sharp now. So what, you think my father decided to make an example out of me? I think, Judge Judy said, that your father saw a pattern forming, and he chose documentation over denial. The defendant's jaw clenched. That is not fair, he muttered. Fairness, she said, has nothing to do with it. Responsibility does. She flipped the folder open again, just enough to glance at one line. This report does not describe a one-time misunderstanding, she continued. It describes behavior that escalated after warnings. The defendant looked away. Judge Judy noticed. Tell me, she said, how many times has someone stepped in before things reached this point? He did not answer. How many times, she repeated, has your last name ended a conversation? His foot tapped twice, fast, then stopped. That is not relevant, he said quietly. Judge Judy's voice lowered. It is the only thing that is relevant. The room stayed still. The defendant finally looked back up, irritation giving way to something closer to unease. You are acting like this is my fault, he said. Judge Judy met his eyes. I am not acting, she said. I am observing. She closed the folder again. When protection becomes exposure, she added, it usually means someone decided the risk of silence was worse than the discomfort of truth. He stared at the desk, breathing shallow now, because for the first time, it was clear. This case was not here despite his father. It was here because of him. Judge Judy did not open the folder this time. She left it closed, resting one hand on top of it like a boundary that had already been crossed. "You know what makes this different?" she asked. The defendant looked up, wary now. "Different from what?" "From a mistake," she said. "From a bad night. From a misunderstanding." He scoffed weakly. "This was a misunderstanding." "No," Judge Judy replied. "This was repetition." The words settled into the room, heavier than any accusation. She slid a single sheet out from beneath the folder and placed it in front of her, not him. "I did not need to open this," she said. "I already read it." He leaned forward anyway, trying to see. "Multiple calls," she continued, calm and precise. "Different dates, different locations, same tone, same outcome." His jaw tightened. "Those were nothing," he said. "People complain about everything." "They do," Judge Judy agreed. "But departments do not document everything. They document patterns." The plaintiff's eyes flicked between them. Hope crept into her expression, cautious, but real. Judge Judy kept her focus on the defendant. "You see," she said, "a single incident can be debated. A pattern cannot." He shifted again, discomfort now replacing irritation. "You are exaggerating." "I am counting," she corrected. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "Warnings were given," she said. "Situations were de-escalated. Names were recorded and set aside." The defendant laughed once, short and forced. "So what, now I am a criminal?" "No," Judge Judy said. "You are predictable." The word stung. He leaned back, crossing his arms tightly. "You are trying to paint me as some kind of problem." "I am not painting anything," she replied. "You have been coloring outside the lines for years." The gallery sat frozen. Judge Judy paused, letting the silence work. "When someone keeps getting pulled out of the fire," she said, "they eventually stop believing fire can burn them." The defendant stared at the desk, breathing uneven. "That is not my fault," he muttered. "Whose fault would it be?" she asked. He did not answer. She leaned forward slightly. "Patterns exist for one reason," Judge Judy said, "to warn us, and when they are ignored long enough, they stop warning and start proving." The defendant's voice dropped. "You do not know me." "I know behavior," she replied, "and behavior does not lie." She glanced briefly at the plaintiff, then back at him. "This case is not about a single night," she continued. "It is about what happens when consequences are delayed so long, they feel optional." His shoulders sagged, just a little. "And that," she said, "is why this is here now." The room stayed silent, the weight of years pressing down in seconds. Judge Judy tapped the closed folder once. "There is still more," she said. "And what comes next explains why this time no one stepped in. If someone keeps being protected, where does responsibility really belong?" The words "no one stepped in" lingered like unfinished business. The defendant shifted again, slower this time, as if movement itself required thought now. His eyes stayed on the desk. The confidence that once spilled outward had turned inward, folding in on itself. "You keep talking about patterns," he said quietly, "but you are ignoring context." Judge Judy watched him closely. "Explain the context." He hesitated, then lifted his head. "My father taught me discipline. People act like I was raised without rules. That is not true." "No one said you were," she replied. "He would not let things get out of hand," the defendant continued, voice tightening. "If something crossed a line, he handled it." "Handled it how?" Judge Judy asked. The question was simple. The answer was not. The defendant looked toward the cameras without really seeing them. "Privately," he said, "the way families should." Judge Judy nodded once. "Behind closed doors." "Yes," he said quickly, encouraged. "Exactly." She did not share his relief. "Do you know what shadows are good for?" Judge Judy asked. He frowned. "What?" "Cover," she said, "and hiding mistakes." The defendant stiffened. "You are turning this into something it is not," he said. "You are acting like my father was negligent." "I am acting like your father was human," she replied. "And humans struggle most when family is involved." The plaintiff watched silently, sensing something deeper unfolding. Judge Judy leaned back slightly, hands folded. "Let me tell you what I see," she said. "I see a man with authority who spent years trying to balance duty and love, and I see a son who mistook silence for approval." The defendant's jaw clenched. "He never said I was wrong," he said. "That does not mean he thought you were right," Judge Judy replied. The words landed harder than accusation. "He trusted me," the defendant insisted. "He knew I would not cross lines." Judge Judy's gaze sharpened. "And when you did?" she asked. The defendant opened his mouth, then stopped. The room waited. "I fixed it," he said finally. "Or he did." Judge Judy nodded slowly. "That is the shadow." She leaned forward. "When a parent cleans up quietly, the child learns one lesson," she said. "That the mess is temporary, not the behavior." The defendant's shoulders sagged further. "You think he wanted this?" he asked, a crack in his voice. "You think he wanted me sitting here?" "I think," Judge Judy said carefully, "that there comes a moment when protection becomes permission, and permission becomes guilt." She paused. "And I think your father reached that moment before you did." The defendant swallowed hard. "He would have stopped this," he said, "if he thought it would go this far." Judge Judy's voice softened, but only slightly. "Or," she said, "he realized that stopping it had not worked." Silence filled the room again, thicker than before. The defendant stared straight ahead now, no smirk, no laughter, no commentary, just the weight of a realization forming. Judge Judy held his gaze. "Sometimes," she said, "the strongest thing a parent can do is step back and let the truth speak." She paused. "And that," she added, "is what makes this case different." The defendant's hands tightened on the edge of the table, because for the first time he was not standing in his father's protection. He was standing in his shadow, and it was no longer covering him. The room felt smaller now. The defendant sat forward, elbows on the table, fingers interlocked so tightly his knuckles had turned pale. He was not smiling. He was not joking. He was waiting, the way people do when they sense something they cannot outrun. Judge Judy reached for a different folder, not the thick one, a thinner file, lighter, older. The defendant noticed immediately. "What is that?" he asked. Judge Judy did not answer right away. She opened it slowly, deliberately, like she wanted him to feel every second. "Do you know what changes when a case stops being handled quietly?" she asked. He shook his head. "No." "Intent," she said, "and witnesses." She pulled out a single page. "This," she continued, "is communication between your father and his department regarding this incident." The defendant froze. "That is not possible," he said. "He would never—" Judge Judy raised a hand. "Listen," she said. She read one line aloud, short, direct. "Let it proceed. No intervention." The air left the room. The defendant stared at her. "That does not mean what you think it means." "It means exactly what it says," Judge Judy replied. He shook his head, voice rising. "No. He always steps in. He would have stopped this." Judge Judy leaned forward, eyes steady. "That is precisely why this matters," she said, "because this time he did not." The defendant's breath came faster now. "You are twisting it." "I am translating it," she replied. She tapped the page once. "This message was sent after reviewing the report, after reviewing the pattern, after realizing that quiet fixes had failed." The defendant's voice cracked. "So you are saying he just let this happen?" "I am saying," Judge Judy said carefully, "that your father stopped protecting behavior and started protecting accountability." The words hit harder than any accusation. The defendant slumped back into his chair, stunned. "That means," he began, then stopped. Judge Judy finished it for him. "It means this case is not here by accident," she said. "It is here by design." The gallery sat motionless. Even the bailiff seemed frozen. "He set me up," the defendant whispered. "No," Judge Judy said firmly. He stepped aside. There was a difference, and the defendant felt it now. His hands dropped to his lap. His shoulders sagged. The armor was gone. "For the first time," Judge Judy continued, "your last name did not pull you out. It held you in place." The defendant stared at the table, eyes glossy, breathing shallow. "All this time," he muttered, "I thought I was untouchable." Judge Judy closed the file. "And that," she said, "is why this case had to reach this room." Silence pressed down, thick and final, because the power had shifted, not from the plaintiff to the defendant, not from the gallery to the bench, but from protection to truth. And the defendant finally understood something he never had before. This time, no one was coming to save him. The silence did not break when Judge Judy finished speaking. It settled. The defendant sat very still, eyes locked on the table, as if movement might make things worse. His smirk had vanished completely now, not cracked, not faded, gone. In its place sat something unfamiliar and unguarded. Fear. He cleared his throat. "You are saying he misunderstood," he said, forcing steadiness into his voice. That message could mean anything. Judge Judy did not answer right away. She watched him carefully, the way doctors watch patients who are about to hear a diagnosis. "Why do you think he stayed silent?" she asked. The question landed differently than the others. It was not legal, it was personal. The defendant swallowed. "Because he trusted me," he said. "He knew I would handle it." "Handle it how?" Judge Judy asked. The words caught in his throat. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "I would make it go away," he said finally. Judge Judy nodded once. "That is what you have been taught." His hands clenched together on the table. "You keep acting like that is a bad thing," he snapped. "He was protecting me." "From consequences," Judge Judy replied. "Not from behavior." The defendant shook his head, frustration bubbling up. "You do not understand. Where I am from, you survive by knowing who has your back." "And when the person who always had your back steps away?" she asked. He looked up at her then. Really looked. His eyes were glassy now, rimmed red. "Then it feels like betrayal." Judge Judy's voice softened, but it did not bend. "No," she said. "It feels like adulthood." The words hit him harder than anger ever could. He leaned back, exhaled sharply, and ran a hand through his hair. "So this is it," he muttered. "This is how I learn?" "This is how most people learn," Judge Judy replied. "The difference is, most people do not get years of warnings first." The plaintiff sat quietly, hands folded now, watching a man unravel in real time. "You think I wanted to be like this?" the defendant asked suddenly. "You think I chose this?" "I think you chose comfort," Judge Judy said. "And comfort chose for you." His voice cracked. "I did not think it would go this far." "That," she replied, "is the most honest thing you have said today." The room stayed still. The defendant stared straight ahead, jaw tight, breathing uneven. His confidence was not fighting anymore. It was retreating. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. "Tell me something," she said. "If your father were standing here right now, what would he say?" The defendant did not answer. He blinked. Once, twice. "I do not know," he whispered. And that was the moment the last trace of arrogance drained from his face, the moment the smirk truly died, not because he was embarrassed, but because he finally understood he was alone in this decision. Judge Judy sat back. "We are not finished," she said. "But now, we are finally dealing with the truth." The defendant nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the table. Because for the first time in his life, the shield was gone. And he did not know who he was without it. If you were his parent, would you protect him, or finally stop him? The room stayed quiet after Judge Judy's last words. Not tense, not hostile, just stripped down to something raw. The defendant sat with his hands folded now, fingers laced together tightly like he was holding himself in place. When he finally spoke, the bravado was gone. What remained sounded younger, unpracticed. "You keep saying I was protected," he said, like it was some kind of gift. Judge Judy did not interrupt. He took that as permission. "I grew up watching my father walk into rooms where people stood up straighter," he continued. "I saw doors open, conversations stop. That does something to a kid." The plaintiff listened quietly, her expression unreadable. "It teaches you things," he said, "not because someone explains them, because you absorb them." Judge Judy leaned back slightly, eyes fixed on him. "What did you absorb?" she asked. He hesitated. "That problems disappear," he said finally, "that if things get messy, someone else cleans them up." His voice tightened. "That if your last name carries weight, you do not have to carry as much yourself." Judge Judy nodded slowly. "That is not immunity," she said. "That is insulation." He frowned. "What is the difference?" "Immunity tells you rules do not apply," she replied. "Insulation delays when you feel them." The defendant exhaled sharply, like the idea hit closer than he wanted. "I was never told no," he admitted. "Not really. Not in a way that stuck." The room absorbed that. Judge Judy's voice stayed steady. "So, when someone challenged you, what did you do?" "I laughed," he said quietly. "Or I pushed back, because that always worked." "And when it worked," she continued, "what did you learn?" He swallowed. "That I was right." "No," Judge Judy corrected gently. "That you were untouched." The distinction settled heavily between them. "You do not sound angry," he said suddenly, almost confused. "You sound disappointed." Judge Judy met his eyes. "I have seen this many times," she said. "People raised without friction believe the world owes them softness." He looked down. "And when the world finally pushes back?" she asked. He did not answer right away. "It feels unfair," he said. "Like betrayal." Judge Judy nodded. "Because consequences feel personal when you meet them late." The defendant rubbed his palms together nervously. "I thought being connected meant being safe," he admitted. "I did not think it meant being stuck." "Safety without limits," Judge Judy said, "creates adults who confuse power with permission." The plaintiff shifted slightly, the weight of years reflected in her eyes. Judge Judy leaned forward. "This case is not about your childhood," she said. "It is about what you do now that the insulation is gone." The defendant looked up, fear and clarity mixing in his expression. "And that," she added, "is where accountability finally begins." He nodded slowly, not in agreement, in understanding. And for the first time, the courtroom felt like a place where learning was unavoidable. Judge Judy did not speak right away. She reached beneath the bench and pulled out one final document. Not thick, not formal, just a single page, folded once, worn at the edges like it had been read more than it should have been. The defendant noticed immediately. His breathing slowed, then stopped. "What is that?" he asked, voice barely steady. Judge Judy unfolded the page carefully, smoothing it flat with her palm. "This," she said, "is a statement." He leaned forward instinctively. "From who?" Judge Judy lifted her eyes. "From your father." The room reacted without sound, no gasps, no whispers, just stillness, sharp and complete. The defendant shook his head. "No, he would not." "He did," Judge Judy said calmly, "voluntarily." She glanced down and read. "I did not step in this time because I realized stepping in had become the problem." The defendant's face drained of color. Judge Judy continued, her voice steady, deliberate. I protected my son for years, believing silence was mercy. It was not. It was permission. The words cut deeper than any evidence. The defendant's lips parted, but nothing came out. I failed to teach him restraint. I failed to stop patterns when they were small. I will not fail again. Judge Judy lowered the page. The silence that followed was not tense. It was devastating. The defendant stared at the document like it might disappear if he did not acknowledge it. His hands trembled openly now. No effort to hide it. No pride left to defend. "He thinks I am a problem," he whispered. Judge Judy shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "He thinks you are worth stopping." The distinction hit harder than judgment. The defendant's shoulders slumped forward. His posture collapsed inward, like a structure finally giving way under its own weight. "I thought he believed in me," he said, voice cracking. "He does," Judge Judy replied. "That is why he stopped saving you." Tears welled in the defendant's eyes, surprising even him. He blinked hard, embarrassed, then gave up trying to stop them. "I did not know," he said. "I swear, I did not know it looked like this." Judge Judy leaned forward slightly, not unkind. "That," she said, "is the danger of insulation. You do not feel the damage until it is loud." The plaintiff watched quietly, compassion and closure crossing her face at once. Judge Judy folded the statement and set it aside. "This case is not about punishment," she said. "It is about interruption." The defendant wiped his face with the back of his hand, nodding weakly. "I get it now," he said. "I finally get it." Judge Judy met his eyes. "Good," she said, "because understanding does not erase harm, but it does change what happens next." The courtroom remained silent, heavy with truth, because in that moment the final illusion collapsed. The core truth was no longer hidden. The father had not betrayed his son. He had confronted him, and the son, for the first time, had nowhere left to hide. The courtroom felt different now, not quieter, not calmer, emptier. The defendant sat motionless, shoulders rounded forward, hands resting uselessly on the table. The fight had drained out of him completely. There were no words left to defend, no angles left to try, just the weight of what had finally been said. Judge Judy allowed the silence to breathe. She did not rush it. She understood what moments like this required. Not pressure, not commentary, just space. "You are not arguing anymore," she observed gently. The defendant shook his head. "There is nothing left to argue." That admission landed heavier than any confession. Judge Judy nodded once. That is usually when learning begins. The plaintiff sat straighter in her chair, not triumphant, relieved. Her hands were steady now, her breathing even. Judge Judy turned slightly toward her. "You came here asking to be heard," she said. "You were." The plaintiff nodded, eyes glistening. She did not speak. She did not need to. Judge Judy shifted her attention back to the defendant. "You walked into this room believing power lived in your name," she said. "In who would step in? Who would smooth things over?" The defendant stared at the table, jaw tight. "But power," Judge Judy continued, "does not live in rescue. It lives in restraint." He closed his eyes briefly, absorbing it. "For the first time," she went on, "no one interrupted the process for you. No calls, no favors, no shadows." She paused. "And look what happened." The defendant exhaled slowly, like he had been holding his breath for years. "I feel exposed," he said quietly. "That is accountability," Judge Judy replied. "It feels that way when you meet it late." She leaned back slightly, folding her hands. "You did not lose power today," she said. "You lost insulation." The distinction mattered. The defendant nodded faintly. "I thought losing protection would feel like punishment." "And?" Judge Judy asked. "It feels like reality," he admitted. The courtroom remained still. Even the cameras seemed less intrusive now, like witnesses instead of spectators. Judge Judy's voice softened again, but it did not waver. "You cannot undo patterns," she said. "You can only stop repeating them." The defendant lifted his head slowly. For the first time, he met her eyes without defiance. "I understand," he said. "I do not expect mercy." Judge Judy held his gaze. "Good," she said, "because this is not about mercy." She gestured subtly toward the room. "This is about balance, and balance requires weight on both sides." The defendant swallowed hard, nodding. The power that once filled the room had not shifted to someone else. It had simply left, and in its absence, something far more uncomfortable had taken its place. Truth. Unprotected. Unavoidable. Judge Judy did not deliver the ruling yet. Instead, she paused, long enough for the defendant to realize that silence now was intentional. "There is a cost to being untouchable," she said finally. The defendant lifted his head slowly. His eyes looked tired, not from the length of the hearing, but from the weight of what it had become. "People think being protected is a privilege," Judge Judy continued. "They think it makes life easier." She shook her head. "It does not. It delays damage, and delayed damage always costs more." The defendant swallowed. "You did not just hurt one person," she said, gesturing gently toward the plaintiff. "You hurt trust. You hurt credibility. You hurt the people who had to clean up after you." The plaintiff's lips pressed together, not in anger, in recognition. Judge Judy leaned back slightly, her voice steady and reflective. "Every time someone stepped in for you, they took something away," she said. "They took away your chance to stop, to adjust, to grow." The defendant looked down at his hands. "I did not think about that," he said quietly. "Of course not," Judge Judy replied. "People who are insulated rarely do." She paused. "And the cost does not end with you," she added. "It reaches parents who feel responsible, communities who lose faith, victims who wonder why their pain mattered less than a name." The defendant's jaw tightened. His eyes shimmered again, but he did not wipe them this time. "I thought being untouchable meant being strong," he admitted. Judge Judy met his gaze. "No," she said. "It meant you were never tested." The words landed with finality. Judge Judy turned briefly to the plaintiff. "You paid the price for someone else's insulation," she said. "That should never happen." The plaintiff nodded, emotion flickering across her face, then settling into resolve. Judge Judy turned back to the defendant. "This is what happens when accountability arrives late," she said. "It feels heavier, sharper, less forgiving." He nodded slowly. "But it also arrives clearer," she continued. "There is no confusion left, no hiding place." The defendant straightened slightly in his chair, not confidently, deliberately. "I see that now," he said. "I cannot undo what I cost people." "No," Judge Judy agreed, "but you can stop adding to the bill." The room felt steady, grounded, like the storm had passed and left debris behind to be counted. Judge Judy folded her hands. "We are close to the end," she said. "And what comes next is not about who you are related to." She paused. "It is about who you choose to be now." The defendant nodded once, because being untouchable had finally touched him, and the cost was something he would carry forward, whether he wanted to or not. Judge Judy's hands rested on the bench, fingers lightly folded. The gavel remained untouched. "This is the moment most people think they want," she said quietly. "The verdict. The ending." The defendant looked up, eyes fixed on her now, fully present. No deflection left, no resistance. "But endings," she continued, "are only useful if the lesson arrives first." She leaned forward slightly, her voice calm but deliberate. "You believed power meant exemption," she said. "You believed respect came from association, and for a long time, that belief worked." The defendant nodded once. He did not interrupt. "It worked because others paid the cost," Judge Judy added. "Not you." She paused, letting the truth settle. Real respect, she went on, comes from restraint, from knowing when to stop even when you could continue. The defendant swallowed hard. You never learned that, she said, not because you were incapable, but because someone always softened the landing. She gestured gently toward the folder, now closed for good. That ends here. The plaintiff sat quietly, shoulders squared, eyes steady. She was not waiting for revenge. She was waiting for closure. Judge Judy turned her attention to her. You were not asking for special treatment, she said. You were asking for fairness. That matters. The plaintiff nodded, lips trembling once before settling. Judge Judy looked back at the defendant. This room does not exist to humiliate people, she said. It exists to interrupt behavior before it hardens. He nodded again. Slower this time. I understand, he said. I do. Judge Judy studied him for a moment longer. Understanding, she said, is only useful if it changes what you do next. She let that sit. For the first time, she continued, your name carries no weight here, only your actions do. The defendant exhaled, a long, quiet breath. I accept that, he said. Judge Judy reached for the gavel at last. Not to strike it, just to hold it. Then this lesson has done its job, she said. She paused, eyes moving briefly across the room, the cameras, the quiet faces watching. Because justice is not about taking someone down, she added, it is about bringing everyone back to the same level. She raised the gavel slightly. And now, she said, we can talk about consequences. The room leaned forward, not in excitement but in readiness, because the verdict was coming, and this time it would not be softened. Do people really change when consequences arrive, or only when protection disappears? Judge Judy did not rush the moment. The gavel hovered in her hand, unmoving, as if even it understood the weight of what was about to happen. The courtroom felt suspended, balanced on a breath no one dared to release. This case was never about punishment, she said calmly. It was about accountability finally arriving. The defendant sat straight now, not confident, not defiant, present. His eyes stayed on the bench, unblinking, as if looking away would undo what he had learned. Judge Judy's voice remained even. You caused harm, she continued, not just through your actions, but through the belief that consequences were optional. That belief ends today. She outlined the ruling with precision: restitution, responsibility, clear conditions that required effort, humility, and follow-through. Nothing theatrical, nothing excessive, just consequences that could not be avoided or quietly erased. The defendant nodded as she spoke. Once, then again. Each nod slower than the last. I accept the judgment, he said when she finished. His voice did not shake. It did not resist. Judge Judy looked at him for a long moment. This ruling will not follow you forever, she said. But how you respond to it might. She turned slightly toward the plaintiff. You were right to come here, she said. Your voice mattered, even when it was inconvenient to powerful people. The plaintiff's eyes filled, but she held herself steady. Relief moved through her like warmth after a long cold. Judge Judy returned her attention to the defendant. You walked in believing your name would protect you, she said. You are leaving knowing your choices define you. The gavel came down, not loud, not sharp, final. The sound echoed briefly, then faded into a silence that felt different from all the others before it. This one was not heavy. It was settled. The defendant exhaled slowly. When he stood, there was no swagger, no glance at the cameras, just a man carrying the quiet weight of responsibility for the first time. Judge Judy gathered her papers, her expression composed but thoughtful. Justice does not shout, she said. It waits, and when it finally speaks, it does not need volume. The courtroom began to move again. Chairs shifted, breath returned, life resumed. But something had changed. Arrogance had entered that room expecting immunity. It left with understanding, and in the end, it was not anger or humiliation that delivered justice. It was silence, because silence at last left nowhere left to hide.